Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Y&E podcast. Thank you for joining us. And if you haven't subscribed, please go ahead and subscribe, like, share, and also engage us in the comment section. And one interesting thing we're talking about is the new immigration policy that is being rolled out. And this is about the H-1B visa application requirement. So the old gist of it is that President Trump signed a proclamation that we require $100,000 application fee for H-1B visas. If you didn't hear that correctly, $100,000. 100,000 to 10,000 to 50 to 60 to 80 to 90 to $100,000 for each applicant. So if an organization is sponsoring multiple employees, that's going to add up real quick. And it looks like it's a win for the people in the tech industry looking for jobs, because we know lately it's been very difficult to find IT related jobs. And a lot of these employers they've offshored most of the jobs to overseas, and it's difficult for IT specialists to find jobs in the US. So maybe it's a win for the people inside the US, and also it's not a win. It's definitely a loss for people outside the US looking to leverage the H-1B visa application to come into the US. So, what's your take on this new development?
I mean, this is a welcome development. I think this is probably one of the things that Trump administration have done that I honestly and genuinely applaud. For a very long time, Trump has been taking advantage of the American people. Americans will take out loan to go to school. You graduate, you end up with almost on average about $40,000 to $60,000 loan for your first degree. And then, depending on what you major in, especially, in the last 2 years or 3 years now, if you major in anything in IT, it's been very, very difficult to get jobs. Instead of hiring Americans, they hire foreigners. Maybe, not maybe, I think primarily for low wages. And, they end up making argument that they can't find Americans to fill those positions, which is utterly lies. We know why they do it is because of corporate greed. And for some of them that are now hiring here, in fact, I saw somebody that said that Google allegedly fired the whole department and shipped all of those jobs, about 7,000 people, and shipped all of those jobs to overseas, to low wage countries. Yeah, which is good. We are trying to look out for those people, or those people are trying to make a living. And most of these companies, like Google, is a global company. But however, they reside here in America. They get a lot of tax incentive from America, and then they end up not hiring Americans because they don't want to pay the prevailing wages because they want to maximize profit, which I don't blame them for. But at the end of the day, if we Americans do not have jobs, how are we supposed to patronize these companies? Because it's widely believed that Americans have more disposable income. That is why everybody scrambled to get their business operation or get their market, have access to American market. So if we don't have a job, how are we able to patronize this company? So I think this is a very good step. I think, but my fear is that I don't think this amount is enough to really force these employers to look inward before they look outside. I think they should raise it to 300,000 or 500,000 in order to encourage them to start hiring Americans. Though I understand that this is going to be annually, so it means that if you hire two HB1 uh, employees every year, you pay $100,000 for those employees. So you really have to think if it is worth it to keep paying that 100,000, or you just want to look inward. But like I said, my fear is this amount big enough to deter them from hiring HB1 visas? I'm not saying they shouldn't hire them at all. My argument is that look at Americans first, hire them first, and then use HB1s to supplement them. But in a situation where you completely overlook Americans, you don't even look at them, and you just move and then hire foreigners, I think is utterly detestable. And in fact, even offshoring jobs too, who is going to drive the economy here? You send job to Kenya, you send job to Somalia, you send job to Europe. Fine and good. You may be paying low wages, but those people are using the money you're paying them to prop the economies. And the people that you left here without jobs, that are supposedly supposed to, patronize your company, they don't have money. So how are they going to patronize your company? So I think this is a step in the right direction. I remember one of our episodes, I think we said something like this. I think another step would be for them to, to look into offshoring of jobs and make sure that those jobs, they bring them back home.
Yeah, I definitely agree that it's a win for the American people. However, a company, we always do whatever they have to do to be profitable. We all know that, right? We're in a capitalist economy and they're in business to make money. I don't think this is gonna stop companies from offshoring jobs, or they can stop hiring H-1B visas, right? They can stop bringing H-1B employees into the country. And the worst thing is going to happen. Now they're going to do a financial analysis and see, is it worth it to bring this employee into the US or just offshore the job and pay that employee a lower wage in their own country and not bring them into the US. Either way, the US is still losing a job. So I think organizations will have to do their financial analysis and see if it makes sense to either hire H-1B visas or hire someone in America or offshore the job to a low wage country where they can still get the job done. So I think it'll be the later, because if it's cheaper to ship your offshore, your operations overseas, and you know you're going to pay those people overseas a low wage, you will do that. I mean, we know other companies are doing it. I'm not trying to, name companies now. They'll lay off or shut down their operation in the US and take the operation overseas where wages are lower. That way they can continue to service their customers and then they're increasing their profit margin. So do you think this is what's going to happen as a result of the new H-1B visa application?
Yeah, I mean, I've thought of everything. I'm not, I'm not naive. It's possible that they will do the latter, offshore jobs, move jobs overseas. However, I would say I trusted Trump to take care of business. He may end up going after those people. If you offshore your jobs overseas, you get additional tariffs on whatever you're doing, your product and services. I think these companies need to be loyal, to American people. Over time, they've been yelling that college is a scam. College is a scam, But look at what it's doing. They constantly complain that there is no, labor pool. There is no skill set in America to fill those jobs. But let me ask you, tell me why I should be calling Papa John to order pizza and I'm talking to somebody in India. It doesn't make any sense. Tell me why I'm calling Amazon that has the operation here about my product or about my order, and I'm talking to somebody in Bangladesh or somebody in the Southeast Asia. It doesn't make sense. So some of those jobs, in fact, almost all the jobs, middle class jobs, they're moving them overseas. The only thing that they haven't moved overseas is CEO jobs. In no distant time, we'll probably start seeing them moving all those CEO jobs overseas. So the bottom line is that the organizations, the businesses. I completely understand that businesses are in business to make money. They are not there to massage my ego. But however, there's a need for them to be loyal to the American people because if you continue to move this job overseas, like in the case of offshoring, you offshore them overseas, fine and good, you make all the profit. Then who is gonna buy that your product or your service if the people back home don't have money or they don't have jobs? So I think they need to look for a balance, They can keep their operations here and still make money.
Yeah, I agree with you, but I also disagree when you said you trust President Trump to fight for the American people. We know
I
President
said
Trump is
I
a
almost I
businessman.
think
He's a businessman, and you see the folks in his cabinet, they're wealthy people, they're business people, and you saw the people that attended his inauguration, the second inauguration, they're billionaires, right? So I don't think President Trump is going to fight for the average American when the billionaires are flaunting money in his face. As we all know, everyone has a price. How would you hold companies accountable? Especially multinational. You talked about Papa John's, that you order pizza here in the US, you're talking to somebody in India or other businesses that are multinational. How would you stop them from expanding overseas? They're saying, hey, we're expanding our operations in Africa, we're expanding our operation in Asia. how would you tell them to not expand? When a capitalist economy, you're going to tell them to not expand in those places and only expand the US. I don't think that's going to work, but I'm just, thinking out loud. For these businesses, they're in business to make money. They are multinational. They do business in other countries, and they have customers in other countries. They sell pieces, they sell product, they sell services overseas as well. So if they're telling you, hey, we're only expanding our operations overseas, who are you to stop them? Who is the president of the United States to stop them from expanding overseas and put a law in place or try to penalize them for doing business overseas? I don't think you can do that. And if he's able to do it, the worst thing the president can do is to add additional tariffs. And guess who's going to pay for the tariffs? The consumers in the US. So things are going to get more expensive if the president or his administrations decide to go this route. And either way, the folks in the US are still going to be losing. So I think we need to find a permanent solution to this problem. And if you know you're not going to hire US people because the cost of operations is high, yeah, maybe you don't need to sell to the people in the US if that's a viable option. And if you want to continue to sell, then maybe keep a portion of your operation in the US, keep people employed, and maybe that's the best way to go. But we don't know.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. But however, like Papa John's, that I don't think Papa John's is a multinational company. I think it's just local. But I expect that if I call the number to place an order for a pizza, I expect to be talking to a local. I don't expect you to route me to somebody in Bangladesh or in China to talk to about ordering a pizza in the US. It doesn't make any sense. And speaking about added tariff, yeah, that is an option. Another option would be to remove their tax incentive that they get. Yeah, you take it out. If they refuse to bring back the operation, bring back jobs, hire Americans, you remove that. Let them start paying their fair share what they're supposed to pay as a corporation, and just remove all the tax incentives they get, and then the subsidies, and then everything they get. You remove it, just like they did to Harvard. Remove it, and that will force the jobs to come back. So I think is just required a political will to do it. And we only need somebody radical enough to do it, to pull this. Somebody, not just it's not something that any Joe can do. It requires somebody that is radical, that is ready to take a stand and just do it. If you refuse to hire Americans, bring by some of your operation back home, you remove their tax incentive, then let them pay.
I get what you're saying. In the case of Papa John's have 5,500 locations in 49 countries, so that makes them a multinational. But if you're a multinational, you can do business anywhere in the world. You can leverage your operations outside of the US and source for cheaper labor to be able to get things done. Not just only Papa John's. Other companies out there, hire people to do their payroll overseas. They hire people to run their finance department, to run their HR department overseas. So they cut jobs in the US and offshore it overseas. I don't really know how best to strategize and hold these companies accountable. But at the same time, businesses are going to do what's best for them. Businesses are going to do what's best for them in order to make profit. Or maybe the best way to go is, all businesses. If you're a large business, you're a multinational, you pay 50% tax in the US. But if like 90% of your operation is in the US, then maybe they can cut the tax to like 10%. And maybe that will bring them back in the country and set up their operations. But we know setting up operations costs money, right? If you don't have your operations here, things are really expensive in the US. And I don't know if any tax incentive is gonna be strong enough for you to bring back your business in the US. That's just my thinking.
Yeah, I honestly and truly believe that there's a need for these companies to be held accountable, and they should be loyal to the American people. Because if they continue to ship these jobs overseas, it will get to a point that middle class will be completely wiped out. Because in fact, a lot of people who have graduated college, in fact, people have graduated 3 years, 4 years, no job. These companies continue to post ghost jobs, jobs that don't exist, and they turn around and give this job to H-1Bs, and they claim that they don't have the skill set, or the American people do not have the skill set. In fact, I saw somebody on X yesterday saying that the reason why they hire H-1B visas and the offshore jobs is because Americans are lazy. I laughed about it because I don't think if you're saying Americans are lazy, how come America has the highest number of billionaires and millionaires? So it shows that they are not lazy. I think that was a lazy man argument. But I think the companies, the corporations, businesses that are sending jobs overseas and looking at other people other than Americans, I think they need to be loyal to the country. And if they refuse, I think Trump should go ahead and slap 60% tax on them and additional tariffs to force them to bring it back. Let us know what you think in the comment section. What do you think? You think this is a good move? You think this is going to worsen the situation? Engage us in the comment section and we'll be happy to read your comment.